In a time and place when you can work from anywhere,
two ladies in their mid to late 27s have decided to.
And they're calling it workationing.
It's been a year since the gringas decided to workation and 6 months since they hit the road.
Turns out a lot can happen in 6 months.
Holy shit, we're in fast company.
Bucket list items, wicked goals, crazy adventures, and a whole lot of work.
This is the Workationing Podcast.
Is there an anniversary song? I know there's a happy birthday song. Is there? For he's a jolly good fellow.
I feel like at Chi-Chi's there was like a happy anniversary. Do you remember that? No.
I'm real mad he went to Chi-Chi's where the E. coli is strong.
I love Chi-Chi's. I would risk it. Chi-Chi's was worth it.
Still buy their salsa on the shelves.
Ew.
Grocery stores.
No, that's not the same thing.
I never would. Why would you after something like that? Well, E. coli with your salsa. The reason why I'm asking is because, Kelly, we are two very straight ladies who are about to celebrate an anniversary.
We are. So it's been 6 months now since we've been workationing.
Yes.
Officially. And we're coming up on 1 year since we decided to start this whole crazy thing.
So what was that? July 31st?
July 31st, yeah.
So let's flash back to the listeners, and you can hear this whole process in episodes 0 through 3, right on up to the New Hampshire hotel room and the final countdown, where we were really in full panic attack mode.
Yeah, we were really, really losing it. So we decided on July 31st of last year, we had our first conversation about workationing, but we locked in really quickly.
Well, I had been thinking about it for years. So I had been setting up my life in a way for years that I would be able to travel long term if I wanted to, because I wanted to. And so it's something that I kind of focused on and worked toward. Everyone at the company that I own, the Content Factory, works remotely. So everyone has the same sort of freedom, and we've had employees work from Australia for a while. The whole team is based in the U.S., but people are free to travel around. There's a guy in a band, Jason, who goes on tours with his band Icarus Witch. They've got a new album coming out.
I love them too.
He's dropping it like it's hot.
So dope.
Soon. Coming to album stores. iTunes, probably.
The new Icarus Witch joint.
Coming in hot.
It's going to be fire.
Soon. So I had set this up for myself, this whole workationing thing, and for my team for a while, but I didn't have anybody to go with.
And I was just looking to set my life on fire. So I feel like we locked in pretty quickly and said we were going to do this. And what followed was probably 5 of the hardest months of my life. As hard as this experience, like the actual workationing has been, those months leading up to it were infinitely harder.
Yeah, those were some of the most challenging months of my life too. And I've gone through some shit. I know you have as well.
I cried so much during those 5 weeks.
Well,
those 5 months.
Let's recap what all we had to do, because I know that when we had decided to do it, there was this initial rush of, at least I felt this way, there was this initial rush of like joy and relief.
Right.
That I was excited that I was going to be going on this wild adventure. I was excited about the way that we had set it up to be very intentional with the bucket list items and accomplishing goals and all of these things. I thought that we had really kind of set ourselves up for success in a lot of ways. But I was horrified it was what I was going to have to do, because I had a laundry list of life changes that I needed to make and things that I needed to pack away in the literal and figurative sense.
Right.
That it was very stressful for me. So basically step 1 was we had to essentially become comfortable with being homeless,
right,
which my family and friends thought was very weird.
You know, what really encourages your mother is when your 31-year-old daughter just starts selling all of her shit and being like, hey mom, so can I like move home for a minute? And I got this cat. I'm not going to need her anymore. It was a problem. It looks cracky. It looks like this process looks weird to people.
No, and it looked weird. It felt weird for me. So I went from, I had a really decent relationship, actually. People talked to me after I had made this decision and broken up with my boyfriend and moved out, and then moved in to my friend Carla, bless her guest bedroom for a month before moving in with another set of friends for the rest of the time until we left. But I left that situation to essentially couch surf It was a glamorous version of couch surfing,
right, because
albeit.
it literally takes months to sever those ties and to set yourself up for this. It's not just, oh, I'm going to put all my stuff in storage. Although, honestly, if I had it to do over again, I'd probably be much more efficient, because I think that there was a lot of just procrastinating. And also, I just made everything a lot more complicated than it needed to be, because I was just so in my head with my own angst and anxiety.
There were a lot of emotions tied to it, and it didn't help that I had people coming up to me and saying, you know, are you sure you're doing the right thing? Because this
looks a little cracky.
It looks a little erratic. Have you thought this through? And I'm like, actually, I've been planning this for years. Thank you very much. Can I please have some credit? I'm sorry I didn't explain my whole plan to you and that you can't see it further down the line. But, you know, I'm working on something here. Right.
And also, it's not like you and I didn't have moments where we were having a real crisis of faith either, because we'd call each other once a week and just be like, girl,
you still want to do this?
Yeah, like, are we spiraling? You know?
Oh, we asked ourselves, how many times did we say, are we spiraling right now? Is this what a downward spiral looks like?
Right, because suddenly everyone in your life is questioning you. Some people are really hurt by the decisions that you've made. Mm-hmm. And you've got all this stuff to handle. It does not look normal when all of your friends are buying houses and you're suddenly like, I'm just going to go ahead and be homeless for a minute.
But what else are you supposed to do when you're not happy and you have things that you want to do and really you can do them? You just feel artificially tied down?
Yeah. And I really, really did feel tied down.
There are very few tethers that you can't cut, though.
Right. There are very few situations that you can't get unstuck from. We have a whole episode about that, how to get unstuck. You should go check that out if you haven't heard that one, because it's something that Kari and I have talked about a lot this year, because both of us were feeling stuck and it took a lot of unsticking to make this happen. It really was a 5-month process, and it was an intense 5 months.
You came out to visit me in New Hampshire for a work project, and on the way to the airport, we ended up pulling over into the cell phone lot. Actually, not even, because we got lost and ended up in just some random parking lot. We're just like, here's fun.
Right.
And we had a crying breakdown in my car for a solid 45 minutes.
Yeah, we really did.
Because you were going home, we were both going home to light our lives on fire, and we knew it.
Right. And that was a really intense moment. And we didn't know what the payoff was going to be.
Or if it was going to be if we were even going to last, because we had never lived together before. So, like, introduce a boss employee, including living, including travel situation, and that's just a recipe for disaster, possibly.
Right. Like, let me just go ahead and put strain on every single relationship in my life and get rid of all of my stuff and completely upend my whole life. And I don't even know if this is going to last a month. You know?
No, it was a real gamble. We rolled those dice, though, didn't we?
We sure did. And you know what? I could not be more grateful to the both of us for sticking it out through that process and for just staying the course, because the second, really, that we got to Puerto Rico on that very first day, it was like the weight of the world was off of us.
We knew it, too. Immediately, we knew it was right.
Yeah.
That we had made the right decision. And that, like, oh, is this what we were so stressed out about? Is this what we were? And really, it's the first step. The first step toward anything is always the most difficult, because you have to decide to do it, right? You have to decide to take that step. What is it that your brother says about the frogs on a log?
Oh, yeah. So if there are 3 frogs on a log and one decides to jump off, how many frogs are on the log? Still 3, bitch. Because deciding doesn't do anything.
No.
You have to actually do it.
Mm-hmm. And so throughout this process, I was reminded of a letter that Hunter S. Thompson wrote to a friend, and it was titled "A Man Has to Be Something." And it's a long letter. I would recommend that you look it up, because it's totally worth Googling and reading. But a couple of the choice quotes that Hunter S. Thompson had written to his friend, who was asking for advice as to what he should do with his life. He said, "Indeed, that is the question. Whether to float with the tide or to swim for a goal. It is a choice we all must make, consciously or unconsciously, at one time in our lives. A man who procrastinates in his choosing will inevitably have his choice made for him by circumstance." And then the letter goes on to say, "Let's assume that you think you have a choice of 8 paths to follow, all predefined paths, of course. And let's assume that you can't find any real purpose in any of those 8. Then, and here is the essence of all that I've said, you must find a 9th path." And I think that, Kelly, that's what workationing was for me, was a 9th path. I didn't know exactly what it was going to look like, but I knew that I could do it.
Well, and I didn't like any of the paths that were currently available to me. I had a few options of what, like, moving forward that, you know, were sane and safe and made sense to the people in my life.
Right.
But none of those felt right to me. Mm-hmm. And I knew there had to be something else. And even if this wasn't the ninth path, this ninth path was still another wrong one, then you find the 10th one. But it doesn't make those first 8 any more viable if they really don't work for you.
Right. And so toward the end of the letter, Hunter S. Thompson writes, "Is it worth giving up what I have to look for something better? I don't know. Is it? Who can make that decision but you? But even by deciding to look, you go a long way toward making the choice." And for me, it really resonated with me.
No, definitely. Because I think what I would say is that for both of us, this is an idea that we had both had in different forms that had stuck with us and followed us around for a really long time. But like it kept getting bigger for me. And I know it did for you too, until it just became like, okay, this is something that I have to do. So if you're out there and you're listening to this and what we're doing is resonating with you and it's starting this idea, or maybe this is an idea that you've had for a long time, if it just keeps getting bigger and bigger, it's probably not going to go away. And what you can do is just keep sitting with this feeling.
And getting older and letting the time tick by. And it's only going to be more difficult the longer you sit on it, honestly.
Right. So like if this is something that you want, then start plotting a way to get there. Start looking around.
And maybe it's not workationing at all. Maybe it's starting a business, or, you know, whatever goals you might have, or ideas that you might have for ways that you can improve your life. I think it's just important to start taking that first step. Yeah. And those first steps have taken us some really cool places.
They really, really have. So I have been more places this year than I've ever been in a year. This is great.
Yes.
So we've started in Aguada, Puerto Rico.
Mm-hmm. Which was beautiful. I would recommend Puerto Rico. Aguada, Puerto Rico is beautiful. Isabela, Puerto Rico is beautiful. The whole western side of the island is beautiful.
It's gorgeous. I'd go back. It was great. Medellin, Colombia. Weirdly, if I'm really being honest and looking back, I think is my favorite place we've been. That was a crazy fucking ride. But I really learned some things.
I did too. That's where we found our jamon. That's when we realized what jamons we were. I didn't like Medellin, Colombia as much. It was beautiful. I don't know that I'll go back, but I will say great value, great food.
No, it was great. We spent a little bit of time in New Hampshire.
We did, and in Boston, and in my favorite place, Lincoln, New Hampshire, at the Indian Head Resort.
That was super fun. Then we went to Montreal, which I really liked Montreal.
I did too. I thought the weather was a little dreary.
It was a little dreary, but I'm from Cleveland, so it's okay. I'm used to that shit.
Great food, great value on the dollar.
It was great. We went to Boston again for Pride. We went to Acapulco, which was just...
I'd not recommend it.
I wouldn't recommend that. It's been a beautiful 6 months, and that 6 months was not my favorite.
No, still recovering. And here we're in San Diego.
In Pacific Beach, and we are about to hit Vegas.
I'm excited about that. We've got a hot bucket list item coming up.
And that's just 6 months. We've done all this.
Right. And for the record, we've been doing this on the same budget that we've been on, or we were on previously in the U.S.
Yeah.
And Kelly, you wrote a great guide on how to travel the world on a job that pays $40,000 a year.
Yeah, you can find that on workationing.com. But a Cliff Notes version is that you really can afford to travel. You really can do it. I've had actually a lot of people who we've met on the road who have heard our 40K thing and are like, that's a shit ton of money. That's way more than you need.
That's true. It is actually true. And you really don't have to be hopping trains with your hobo bindle trying to...
That option is available to you. So see, there's plenty of that shit going on out here.
There
also.
There is a subreddit, vagabonding, that you might want to check out if you're into living on, I don't know, like $2 a day.
Yeah, if you are of the train hopping persuasion.
That's not really our style. We like to go a little fancy, and we've gone really fancy on a dime.
We've lived in some wickedly cool places.
I have never stayed in such fancy places for so cheap. Thanks, Airbnb. By the way, you can negotiate great deals on Airbnb if you stay for a month or longer. And also, pro tip, before you just go ahead and book that reservation, message the host and see if you can work out a better deal since you're staying for so long. And, obviously they don't have it rented out yet. So we've learned some things along the way.
Yeah, definitely. But it's definitely affordable is the moral.
Right.
Also, on top of just going to all these cool places, we have also knocked a bunch of items off of our bucket lists. So we've been to a bunch of places in the last 6 months. But for us, it wasn't just about travel. A big part of it was that I always knew that I wanted to travel. I wanted to do a lot more traveling, and traveling for like an extended period of time was definitely a goal. But we had a bunch of other goals also.
Right. Like some bucket list items.
Yeah. That was something I really wanted to do, because you have this bucket list, right? Things you want to do before you die, but when though?
Well, and the when has been put into sharp focus for both of us, because both of us lost a parent at a young age. My mom I was 22 when my mom died of cancer.
Yeah, and I was 20 when my dad died of cancer. So we both I think we're really impacted by that, and are just very aware that you don't know how much time you have.
No.
And so I've got this bucket list, and I feel like I should at least be working on it, because you're just going to write the list, and then what if you never even get to check off a single one?
No. And is it when you're 40 you're going to do this? Is it when you retire?
Right. And
when are you going to start doing these things?
Right. And so we made it a really conscious part of this for us to be knocking items off of our bucket list. And as a result of that, we have had some of the coolest experiences over the last 6 months.
Right. So the Bio Bay, this was on my bucket list ever since the first time I went to Puerto Rico. I heard of the Bio Bay. I just wasn't able to get out there. The first and previous to this trip, only time I had been to Puerto Rico. And so that was the number one thing that I wanted to do, was swim in a Bio Bay. And Kelly, how would you describe a Bio Bay?
It's really fucking magical is what it is. There's like a sort of a Fantasia vibe for those 90s kids out there.
Well, Lisa Frank.
Yeah, it's really crazy. So there's a bunch of single cellular organisms out there that light up when you disturb them, and then you go out into this bay at night. We were in one that was completely dark. There was no one else there. And so when you jump into the water, like your splash lights up.
The whole time you're swimming, your legs are lighting up. You can't see the bottom. It's very scary, but also magical. And at a certain point, you stop caring if a shark is going to come up from the black, deep, dark water and get you.
Right, because we really were swimming at 15 feet of just black water at night. I had my concerns, but it was so magical that I let them go for long enough to have a good time.
If I had to do it again, I would jump in with multiple people at once, because I jumped the gun and just jumped in by myself and then was swimming for a solid 2 minutes before anyone else jumped in with me, and that got very terrifying toward the end.
Scary. But it was fucking fantastic. If you ever get a chance to go, you should go. I think actually probably the best experience of this whole trip, which is saying a lot.
Right. It was the most incredible experience with nature I have ever had, and I cannot stop raving to anyone who will hear about it. I thought the Bio Bay was just amazing.
It was dope.
And then in Medellin, we were introduced to Tejo, because sometimes things deserve to be on your bucket list, and they would be on your bucket list if only you knew about them.
Right. And that happens to us a few times, and it happened to us with Tejo the second we heard about it. So I'm a Midwestern girl, and where I come from, the people love to play cornhole.
And where I'm from, it's horseshoes. Kind of
Similar concept. This is very much like a cornhole or a horseshoe situation, only instead of throwing, say, a beanbag at a hole in a board, you are throwing just a...
Boring. Just so boring.
Right? No, lame. So what you should do instead is you get these metal discs and you throw them at packets of gunpowder.
And when you hit them, they explode.
It just really sounds like a gunshot.
Which in Colombia is a lot of fun.
And what you do, and it's just part of the game to drink a lot. As it is with cornhole and horseshoes, actually.
Right.
So it's the same concept, only the Colombians don't fuck around.
So you start 3 beers deep.
Suddenly you're just chucking hard objects at gunpowder.
We learned that Kelly is the LeBron James of Tejo.
You know, I have no actual athletic talent until you get me into these weird regional sports, and then suddenly.
She won the game for us, no joke. And the locals were shocked and pissed because we were down 8 points. Kelly hit the only shot that is 9 points, securing the win.
I know, it was so weird. People were so salty.
They were so pissed. It was great.
That was like a magical night. It was really fun. We also this was one that had been on my bucket list forever, since I was an 18-year-old freshman in college majoring in philosophy. We went and floated in an isolation tank.
We did in Boston, at Float Boston.
Yeah, I really thought I was going to explore my mind, but really I just kind of wondered what to do with my hands for 90 minutes.
So a float tank is this, I don't know, light, tight box with warm salt water that you float in complete darkness for 60 or 90 minutes, depending on how much time and money you want to spend.
We went 90, you know we did. We go hard.
Go big or go home, we always say.
Right.
And you're supposed to explore the, I guess, outer edges of your mind and hallucinate a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, I didn't get any of that. I just kept running into the walls. I didn't know what to do with my hands. I got the salt in my eyes.
I also got the salt in my eyes. That is not recommended. It hurt a lot. And for a long time, I had the added benefit of falling asleep in the float tank and getting an extra, 20 minutes of float time in? So know that that's an option. However, the lady will open the tank and grab your ankle as you're floating naked in a dark water box. So watch out for that.
Yeah, that's a real hazard. We did an escape room, which I've always wanted to do.
I have also wanted to do an escape room, and they're popping up all over the place, so people can really do them anywhere now. They're very cool.
Yeah, we were pretty killer at it, actually.
So an escape room is all kinds of scenarios. It could be any kind of scenarios.
Yeah, it's an interactive game where it's like a puzzle game, only, this one was a zombie thing, so we were in a place that looked like a lab of some kind. Mm-hmm. And it's like that. It looks realistic. Ish.
Right. You have to solve a bunch of puzzles in order to be able to get out of a room. Ours had lasers, so we got to army crawl on the floor so as to not set off any of the laser alarms.
Yeah, it was really, really cool. We had an amazing time, and we got out.
We did not set a record time, but we were much higher, much faster than the average.
We were competitive.
Yes.
Oh, we went axe throwing with chainsaw.
We did. That was a lot of fun. Kelly, again, slaying it with the axe throwing.
Listen, these weird regional sports, I'm just a real beast at.
Canadian axe throwing. Kelly hits the target every time, and I was just like, of course. Meanwhile, I can't get the damn thing to stick. I don't have the upper body strength. Everyone's laughing at me, and Kelly's just nailing the target.
Slaying it. Big axe, little axe.
Oh, God. If you are ever in the woods and a serial killer comes calling.
You know what? I felt so much more secure. Like, really, I could just whip around on Freddy Krueger and just like right between the eyes.
You made me want to create an updated version of the game Clue just so I could be like, it was Kelly in Canada with an axe.
Right. I threw it all the way down that long hallway. I killed him in the dining room, but I was in the kitchen,
It's so true. An assassin with that axe.
I know.
I've never seen anything like it. Honestly.
I really missed a calling there. We also competed in a poker tournament.
That was on my bucket list. I had never.
It was not on mine, but girl, I'm game.
But we still came in the top 50%.
We did. I squeaked into that top 50%,
champions.
but I made it.
They judged us the whole time. We had a really fun time at that poker table.
Yeah, you know what they really like is when you show up hungover AF after your birthday. Late to the tournament, and then keep asking everybody what the rules of the game are. Also, while eating soup at the table. They really didn't like that. I'm like, well, then don't offer soup.
Don't have soup on the menu if you don't want me to eat it over the poker table.
Right? It's not like I went and got that soup. They brought it to me. They shouldn't have done that if they didn't want me to eat it.
Just the looks on those men's faces.
Oh, God, they hated me so much. And they were just talking such trash about me in French. And I was like, I can hear you.
Oh, that mademoiselle, when I'm the only one at the table, I know who you're talking about, sir.
You're like literally pointing at me. Okay. As I'm shoveling soup in my mouth.
Just pointing at you and shaking his head.
Whatever, I wanted some soup. Fuck it.
I got festive with it. I wore my glitter sweatshirt. That was also not appreciated at the poker table, but you learn.
Whatever, fuck them.
They don't know what style is.
Right? I don't care. They suck.
Then we went to Mexico.
Yes, and we went to Casa Tarzan, which was another thing that was not on our bucket list until we figured out what it was.
No.
And then it was immediately on there. That was just a couple episodes ago if you want to check that out. But essentially, it's a house that was on the property of the Los Flamingos Hotel. Mm-hmm. And it was originally owned, well, not originally owned. It was at one time owned by John Wayne.
It became a Hollywood gang hideaway All kinds of scandalous stuff went down at Casa Tarzan back in the 50s and 60s. And it smelled like the mattresses were original and still retained all of the, I guess, liquids from those 50s and
Fluids.
60s. Just the 50s, 60s, and today.
Right?
Best hits.
All of them.
Coming through that mattress.
But it was really, really cool to see. That place was like a time capsule, which was really, really magical until it wasn't. But for the time that it was magical, it was great. So you should go back and listen to that episode because that's a really good one.
And again, we do not recommend going to Acapulco, but if you accidentally find yourself there, go check out the Los Flamingos Hotel. Don't stay there, though.
No, pop through Casa Tarzan. It's as hot and buggy and dog ridden as anywhere else around there.
God,
so
the
you might
dogs
as well
come at
just
night.
like get some culture or something, girl. I don't know.
Can you have guns in Mexico? Bring one of them, maybe.
Girl, there's nothing but killing going on.
God damn it.
It was a mess down there, dude.
We are about to complete the bucket list item that is probably nearest and dearest to my heart. I am very excited about this. It's like 2 in 1 for me.
No, this is really cool. So this is Kari early on in Puerto Rico wanted me to watch her favorite movie.
Fandango, starring Kevin Costner.
Like a young, foxy Kevin Costner. Like, I really didn't remember a time. I think it's like I'm just a little too young, you know?
Me too. We're only in our mid to late 27s.
Right. And I really couldn't remember a time when Kevin Costner was a stone cold fox. But let me tell you, there
hottest
was a
thing.
time.
There was a time. So Fandango is Kevin Costner's first starring role. And this is a fantastic movie. I don't think it's for free anywhere online, but you can definitely, it's worth buying. I bought it.
No, it's really, really good. And we had like a moment watching it because there's a lot of themes. If you're a loyal Workationing listener, your homework is to go watch Fandango.
Go watch Fandango right now. We're not lying. It's good. And it was my mom's favorite movie as well. So we had a little hand-holdy crying on the couch thing. But in this movie, they're totally straight. Just a little straight hand-holding on the couch.
Hand-holding on the couch. Don't worry about it.
Movie.
I don't understand why everyone thinks we're lesbians. Whatever, girl.
Anyway.
Listen, sometimes you hold hands with your gringo on the couch and cry.
It's true.
I don't know what you guys do.
Happens to the best of us, all right? So in this movie, well, I guess the whole movie, a subplot is they are trying to go dig up their friend Dom. And we are going to go bury our dear friend Dom.
Yes.
I'm so excited about that. On the road trip from Los Angeles to Las Vegas, we're going to rent a car and drive through the Mojave Desert.
No, that's going to be really cool. Are we going to tell them who Dom is?
No.
Okay, you got to watch the movie.
Go watch that movie.
Or Wikipedia it or whatever.
I know, Wikipedia does spoil it.
Yeah,
But don't do
if
that.
You want to cheat.
Just go watch that movie.
If you want to live a lie.
It's good. So we've been really knocking out a lot of bucket list items, and I have never felt so accomplished. I feel like I'm living my life in a way that I never have before. I am hyper aware of how quickly time goes by in a way that I never was before.
Yeah, I think when moving around, you just become very aware of how long a month is, how much you can fit into it, and also how fast it goes. It makes goal setting a lot better because everything sort of has a rhythm. And anytime that we pick up and move to a new place, I feel like we really have an accounting. We really talk about it a lot. What did we accomplish? We set intentions for the next place. It like creates a good rhythm that I feel like has really kept us on track.
And it really prevents a lot of bad habits from taking root, I have found. But when have you ever crossed out 6 bucket list items in 6 months, honestly?
Never. And it's really, really cool because in a certain sense, like when we first got to Puerto Rico, I think we had this sense that like, I can't believe I was being so fucking dramatic about this because really what did I do? Like I got on a plane. And that's really, I mean, it was more complicated than that, obviously. But at the end of the day, you really can just go and do these things. You really can just go and knock a bunch of items off of your bucket list to the point that starts to feel kind of normal, but in a good way.
Nobody's going to stop you. Turns out you can go to weird ass places, do weird ass things, and nobody's going to stop you.
No. And you know what's real weird is that our little passion project of this podcast, kind of like our little scrapbook here of our adventures, is actually doing pretty well.
I am blown away by it, honestly, and by the media coverage that we've gotten so far.
It's been really, really cool to see.
It has been a wild ride. So we were in USA Today. I was in NBC News as a boss who takes job perks to the max.
To the max. You can quote that.
It's kind of Gen X-y for me because I am a little young for that.
It is a little to the max. Like,
just are there 2 X's on that max? How many X's are there?
is it like the max? Was that the name of the restaurant in Saved by the Bell?
I don't know.
Was it called the Max? Anyways.
And then Business News Daily, they wanted me to write an article, so I did. And now I've been published in Business News Daily about how traveling the world and working with remote teams has forced me to become a better boss because of all of the processes I've had to implement. And that's true.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. We were in Huffington Post.
Is one of the up-and-coming podcasts.
That was exciting. We were in Glamour.
Feeling
very glamorous,
very
girl.
glamorous.
Not really, but
glamorous.
that's all right.
We're working on it.
Working on that. We were in Bustle. I was in Fast Company.
That's very cool. It's not easy to get into Fast Company. I work in PR. Girl, I know how hard it is to get into Fast Company.
Yeah, that was fun. And then I've actually got a full feature in women's health coming out in September. And that is cool because that is actually a result of one of our other goals that we set on this trip that we've been slaying, girl.
Killing it. Just on that diet and exercise plan. I love it.
It's so good. But girl, I am down 75 pounds.
Yes.
You were down 20. Yeah, we've lost almost 100 pounds between the two of us.
It's like a 4th grader.
That is absurd.
Is that like a chubby 4th grader?
Yeah, that's like oh, girl. Like it's been hard, but it's been great. It's something that we committed to really early. Mm-hmm. I've never seen changes like this in myself, but it really feels sustainable, and we really committed to it like as a lifestyle change, and I'm proud of us, and I think we can keep going.
I don't see any other way, personally, because I haven't quite hit my fitness goals yet. I plan to run a 5K without stopping. Can you imagine?
I can't even.
I can't even either right now. I literally cannot even right now. But I'm working on it. Gonna do it. You won't ever catch me running a marathon. I don't have the knees for that.
No, girl. And it sounds terrible.
My femur. Can't take it.
I just don't engage in any activities that could result in bloody nipples. That's just a policy of mine.
I hear you put Band-Aids over it. And
I'm not doing that. But yeah, that's been really great. And part of the intentional living, part of all of this is it's really opened my eyes to a lot of things. And I just want to take much better care of myself. I want to have as much time left on this earth as I can. Mm-hmm. I want to be as able and active to enjoy any opportunities that come along as I can. And I want to challenge myself to be the best version of myself.
I want to wear a gold lame dress on yacht prom.
That's also a valid goal. Also valid.
Life goals. TCF has picked up several new clients this year that I am very excited about.
Yeah, there's some really cool growth going on the agency side, which has been really cool to see because I know that, honestly, we had workationed before for short periods of time, but we didn't know what it was really going to look like long term to be doing this and to see that not only is this 100% viable, but I think that we are more efficient and more productive than we were before.
I would agree with that because I have so much stuff that I want to do and I want to be effective. And how can I be more effective? And I've been really focused on that. And there's a great book called The Power of Habit that I really liked. I read it right before I started workationing and decided to implement some of those tactics. And I did to great success. And consistently working towards goals, even if it's just a little bit every day or every week, as long as you're putting in that effort, it does pay dividends down the road.
It really does. Because what I've seen through all of this, even with the weight loss, I've lost weight on pace with almost like a bariatric surgery patient on this. And so, I have been experiencing some pretty significant losses month over month. And girl, I still drink. I still eat nachos. You know what I mean?
We do have nacho nights.
I am far from perfect.
We get the wrong kind of yogurt. That cheesecake yogurt can really
just fuck off. God damn it. And I make mistakes. I go out. I don't eat perfectly all the time. I could really be exercising more. Mm-hmm. And I'm not just trying to put myself down here. Objectively, I have a couple more gears up from this one that I'm in on this weight loss thing. And I think I'm going to have to hit those if I'm going to keep losing. But you really don't have to be perfect is the moral of the story.
Right.
And if you just wake up every day and come back to the process, just keep coming back. You're gonna things
You'll
will
see
change.
progress.
Yeah. You can fuck up. It's okay. But you just you can't be like, well, now it's done. You've got to come back.
Right.
And look what we've been able to do.
And we're still going, sister. And I really like this intentional living in a lot of ways. And it's kind of impacted my life in a variety of ways that I wasn't necessarily expecting, not just with the weight loss, because that's something that I've definitely been focused on, but also just in terms of being effective with work and efficient. And really, process is everything. Having a process is everything.
Right.
And then maintaining it and tweaking it as necessary is really important. But it's led me down an unexpected road of minimalism. Who knew?
That is the last thing that I ever would have seen for myself.
Or me, I think.
I am like a borderline hoarder. Like I am like just a few tragic life events away from just really, really being like a full-scale hoarder. Mm-hmm. Or at least I was.
Yeah.
But now I can't get rid of stuff fast enough. I've accumulated barely anything on this trip, and as fast as I accumulate shit, I get rid of it.
I think that's part of the budget. I guess we've ran into some budget surprises. And I think that in some ways I have had more money than I expected throughout this process because I have not been buying shit. There's nowhere to put it. I don't need it anyway. I don't need the new coffee maker. I don't need a new bedspread. I did need new shoes.
No, but that's the kind of shit I would do. I would be like, well, I need a new bedspread, obviously. Mm-hmm. For what, girl?
I don't know. I'm not as thrilled with those curtains as I used to be.
Right. Because you're staring at them all the time.
I have wine glasses, but these ones look nicer and they're on sale. I don't do any of that.
No, I used to do that shit all the time. And now it's like, for people who don't remember, Kari and I are traveling with an international carry-on and a personal item. The international carry-on are the crazy small ones. Mm-hmm. So we have, 5 outfits maybe?
Mm-hmm. I did a bunch of dresses because that's like a full outfit in one piece.
Right. But we have 5, 6 outfits and our computers and our podcast equipment. And that is it.
I have a hairdryer, curling iron, and a fairly large makeup bag.
I actually even just buy hair dryers and leave them at our Airbnbs. It's like my donation.
I've got a favorite. It's around. Listen, I've got a challenging hair texture as we've described. But another thing that I don't do is buy aspirational clothing sizes because I don't have the space for that. I just don't even have the room for it. You know, this almost fits, and I know I'm probably going to lose like 5 pounds soon, which you never do. Right.
You just got to get rid of that shit. And I'm to the point where I put all of my stuff in storage because I really felt like I needed that safety net. And, I do kind of stand by that decision because the truth is like you and I get along amazingly well. And this has been like, we just are very cohesive in terms of how we like to live and that sort of thing. And so it's great and it's going great, but like it could have gone not great and I would have needed that safety net. But the second that I can find the wherewithal or get back home or whatever, I'm getting rid of everything in the storage unit. And I honestly don't want stuff anymore. I will continue to live with about this amount of stuff, I think, for a while.
I really love, turns out, well, I don't love moving from place to place every month, but I do love coming into a place that's been furnished already. I don't have to bring anything. It's already here for me. I like it. This is fine. It's probably better than I would come up with. I'm not an interior decorator.
No, I have terrible taste, number one. Number two, when you've spent all this time searching for this stuff and then buying it and spending all this money, then like, if it's not the right thing, then you really care. And I see this happen to people that get fucking obsessed with the shit in their house. And I'm just like, the amount of headspace that takes up.
Right, because you spent a lot of money on it. You had a lot of options. And you selected that coffee table out of a wide variety of options. It took you a very long time to do it, but fuck that coffee table. It's keeping you in a place where you don't want to be.
Yeah, I'm ready to get rid of all of my stuff. I don't want it anymore. And I have found a huge amount of freedom and money and time by not owning a bunch of shit. And I really have no desire to own shit really ever again. I don't want anything.
No, and if I need it, I can buy it.
Right.
I really enjoy living this way, personally.
I think it's fantastic, and I wish I had known earlier how good this would be.
It solved a lot of problems I didn't know I had, is what it did.
It really, really does. And it eliminates a bunch of problems that, like, why do you have those problems? Why are you choosing to have these problems?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
You don't need to.
Let's scratch the surface and see how much self-loathing is under those decisions, you know, and why you're still stuck there.
Right.
And why you're not moving. So I guess we should wrap up with, if you're listening to this, and we've got a lot of feedback on our Facebook page and an email, that a lot of you are thinking of coming out here in big fat air quotes, because it could be anywhere. And like I said, maybe it's not workationing, maybe it's something else.
Right, because I don't think that this is for everybody, obviously. But if there is something that you want, like a life that you've wanted and a path that you've always sort of seen yourself taking, and it just keeps eluding you and you just can't ever quite get there, and like someday, and it's 3 years from now, and it's been 3 years from now for the past 3 years.
And you know? Still hate your job.
Right.
Your manager's still a dick and you still haven't left.
Right. I mean, if you have something like that inside of you,
do something about it.
Yeah. It's time. You're ready. You're more ready than you think you are. It's going to feel real dramatic and horrible, but the second you do it, you're going to know that this was it and it was time.
And chances are you could probably always go back. If you have a shitty job that you're trying to go back to, you can go to a different shitty job. Probably.
There's always another shitty job.
You know, it's like shitty jobs and men, or like buses.
Yep.
There's another one.
Another one coming in about 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm. You just sit tight, light a cigarette. That's going to bring it real fast.
Yeah, don't even worry about it. So what you're going to want to do is to start putting together a plan.
You need to figure out what steps you need to take, outline them. Kelly and I have a Post-it process.
It really helps. I know it sounds crazy, but you write it down, you put it on a Post-it, you divide it up into categories, and then you just start tackling that shit. And what's amazing about it is that you put it out on your wall and you see it every day, and you see the physical manifestation of things that you need to do, and not just things that you need to do. This isn't like I need to do the dishes. This is like I need to handle these however many items, because this is what's standing between me and the life that I want.
Right. And you just outline every step you need to take to get to that goal and knock one of them out at least a week.
Yeah, you just keep moving forward. And for some people, this is a change that you can make quickly. And for some people, it can take a few years. It can take some time. But be really realistic with yourself. Are you telling yourself that it's going to take you 3 years because you aren't really ready to deal with it right now?
Those 3 years are going to pass anyway.
Right. You know, but for some people, maybe there really are reasons, like logistical reasons why you have to wait that long.
Right, which is fine.
But you have to be real with yourself, but you can still start taking those steps forward.
The hardest step is always the first one. You hear that a lot. It's true. I've said it, I think, several times in this
episode. It's the jumping off the log.
It is.
You know, you take that first step. I remember for me, the first big step that I had to take to make it go, to move myself in this direction, was I had to turn in my notice in my apartment. And I remember it was like the very last day of the month, and I had to get it in by close of business that day. And it was like, it closed at 5 and I was there at like 4:57 with my letter, because I was just, I was freaking out.
Right.
But once I did that, that started it. It started, like the wheels started turning, and then you just keep going. And it turns out to be easier than you think it's going to be.
And if you can find a friend, you've been great in terms of, you've been great in general.
Thanks,
I love you to pieces.
I love you
we're,
too, girl.
We're besties for life. But the accountability that you've brought into this process, I think that each of us has brought into this process for the other, has really helped keep us on track.
It really has, because the thing about traveling is that we've gone to some really cool places, and it's really easy to fall off track and to spend a little too much time exploring and, hanging out and meeting people and all of that. But if you go into it from the beginning with a friend and you both have set some goals and you really commit to holding each other accountable, it can be really powerful. It's been hugely powerful for us.
Yes. So bake in accountability as much as you can, because you're going to need it. Because if you have something kicking around in your head that you haven't made progress on in a long time, chances are you need accountability.
No, you really do. Recognize in yourself, and I don't say this as a negative thing at all, because this was me, and in a lot of ways this is still me, which is why I literally need to have an accountability partner.
It's what the Post-its are for.
Right. But if you've gotten to the point where there's this life that you want to be leading and you keep putting it off and it's somewhere out in front of you, recognize that there's some other shit that you're going to have to deal with besides just the logistical work of getting there, because there's something inside of you, some kind of self-doubt or self-loathing or something that's holding you back, and you're going to have to unpack all that shit too.
So get ready.
So get ready for that.
You're going to love it. It's great.
It's really fun. But that thing, you're going to tackle it. You're going to figure it out. You're going to grow beyond it. But the process of doing that is difficult. And having somebody to keep you real and to keep you from going back into the thought patterns that got you to where you are now is really important.
I agree. Is that it?
I think it is.
Just end on a powerful note.
Just like,
yeah, just
like,
and that's the truth.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
It's true.
It does. All right, I think we did it.
Yay.
This has been another episode of the Workationing podcast. If you like what you've heard here, please consider donating at patreon.com/workationing. That's patreon.com. All proceeds will go towards funding our bucket list items.
To keep up with us in real time, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, all at Workationing. Or on our website at, you guessed it, workationing.com. That's workationing.com. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode.
Do you want to switch?
You do that so much better. Did you? Was that not good? I was trying to Kelly it. I think my voice is too high.
Girl, listen.
Just a little Five Goes West voice over here, you know?
I've got a lot of soul.
Okay, you do. All right, okay, you lead it off then.
No, you kick it off.
Oh, okay, that's right.
Yeah.
That gets rid of that dastardly too.
You know, you've always been a leader. Just lead. Okay?